Hello and welcome to another Lord of the Rings Rise to War video. I'm the player who plays as the King Under the Mountain, and today I am going to be doing another season update review. I'm going to be showing the map, the leaderboards, the merit boards, all that good stuff. Obviously some battle reports as well. And the main purpose of today, as I like to throw in kind of like a little bit of a side project really every time that I do a video, is we're going to look at some troop damage formations, and we're going to look at some things that we theorise that might work a little bit better, potentially. We're going to go further into depth as well about the whole tank issue and whether you need a tank. I'm probably going to show my formation for that, because at the moment I'm rocking quite a lot of tier 2s. And I think that's probably going to cover the entirety of the video for today, but there's some quite interesting stuff at the back end of it, so bear with my babble, as it were. We're going to start today, I think, with the map, which is zoomed out, which is always a bonus. So, we're going to go through the battle pins to start with. So, Linden have come across here. They have started fighting with Wind and Helve, so Erebor, in the sort of Angmar area. Angmar have also joined in now, which is quite interesting. So, we didn't know how many people were actually in Angmar, but it looks like they've started to join in. So there's a reasonable pin there for the last couple of days. You have a pin with Daffo, Gaia, Salt. I don't know why Toby are there. The Toby should be down here, but that's a different story. Which has been going for 2 days now. 13.6 million participants, 5 million deaths. Fairly decent pin for this size of the season. Obviously there's some smaller ones as well. Sorry about that. Where Salt have tried to come around the side crossings to just sort of like create a flank really, which is quite nice. Arnor lost their capital sadly to us. Sorry Arnor, RIP and all that stuff. We have used Arnor pretty much as farmland so far. We probably need to start filling in some keep soon for some weekly rewards, but that's a different story. I hadn't really thought about that. Anyway, Gondor seem to be fairly happy fighting Mordor. Not too sure what's going on with Gondor. There's been some strange stuff go on with them this season, so probably best to leave that there. Mordor have expanded out, and they have absolutely pounded axed at this pin here through Bear and a little bit of Lame. So they've uprooted a lot of the axe bases around this sort of area. There are a few interesting pins, but reality is, apart from Bear, Lame have very much been able to focus here with a little bit of Bear. Erebor have, like I say, swept north and swept south. It was quite interesting because they have tried to make it a genuine 1v1v1. And full credit to them for doing so, because you don't get many teams who want to do that. So they may have to reassess at this point, because I think they've been a little bit overpowered in this sort of area here, and they are now being overpowered because we've sent more people up that way. So the main pin that I'm involved in, that was a small pin by the keep last night, which we saved the keep, but probably only for a day. And this is the main pin that I've been involved in, which is 10.9 million and 4.1 million deaths. Now, there is roughly 70 or so players in this sort of area here, and we are getting pushed back by Lame. The idea is always to die slowly in these situations. So we lost East Emnet. We're probably going to lose the area of the wall today, but we are still fighting around this area at the moment, and it is slow progress, shall we say, getting through us, but we are making good progress in the north, so quite interesting. Like I say, pretty much at this second in time a 1v1v1 on the map. Admittedly, the pin, and I think Bear and Axe will admit it themselves, the pin down here has never really got too high, and I don't really know the reason behind that, but I think it's just because they've been pretty much outclassed by Bear in the bottom corner from what I've sort of heard so far. So that's kind of the map scenario. Quite an interesting map. The centre opens up in a few days, so you'll probably see some more action go very central soon. But good stuff so far, and it's been fun. Definitely been fun. I mean, this area over here where we currently are, lots of fighting going on all day, every day, which always makes it interesting. I think I have got a little bit less tiles than what I had to drop some just so I could actually path yesterday, because we seem to be incapable of pathing, but there you go. So we're going to go through the farm rankings, and there is Tiber at the top, who has been there all season. I'm pretty sure since probably the first pass opened. Wind got a lot of free farm in the north, and Axe got a lot of free farm as well down the south, but Some of that's being eaten up now by a bear. There is some Gaia in there. There is some Raw, which is pretty impressive. There is a little bit of Toby. There is Wind. There's a bit of everyone in there, really. And we'll just go into the Fellowship board. So Wind are at 3.2. I would say that's gone down quite significantly, actually. I think it was about 3.4, and that's due to them being pushed back in the north. Lame are at 2.9, and unless they take tiles off us, there isn't really anywhere for them to go. If you were to look at spawn areas, really and truthfully, I'm not saying Lame messed up with the spawn, because I don't think they did, because they've played very well with it, but I think they probably realised that their farmland was quite restricted. So to get to 2.9, 2.5, and I think Alcoa have also got a decent amount here, 1.3. Quite a good effort to take that away from people, to be honest. You have Axed at 2.6. You have Toby now up to 2.4. You have Raw at 2.3. Daffo at 2.3. And Vicky at 1.6. And Vikin at 1.6. Not to be confusing. And Salt at 1.5. So that kind of closes out your top 10. Quite an interesting season so far, like I say. And there's been plenty of farming done, I would say. And Merit's starting to catch up now, which is quite nice. From a commander point of view, we are nearly up there with levels. Raven, as always, I don't think I ever show his formation, but he is pretty disgustingly into Scalhelm these days. That's his Z12 Gandalf the White. His Z9 Saruman, bear in mind he didn't have Saruman 3 seasons ago, so, you know, full refine unique, ouch. And then his Z12 Sauron. Z12 must be the figure that he thinks that's probably enough time to stop, possibly. But there you go, so that's his formation. So we're currently sat in 7th in the Commander's board. As for Merit itself, we are currently in 5th. Hopefully we'll climb up a little bit further than that today. There's kind of this battle for 3rd going on. And it's quite interesting because I'm running 2 tier 2 troops, and there are some big accounts up here, a lot bigger than mine. But mine is more of just being able to spam, and we'll probably drop into that when we get into the battle reports. Gear-wise, if I just get to that point, we've stayed the same with gear. We've not changed what we've got. I've been pretty happy with how Sauron's tanked, considering, as you'll see in a minute, he's using tier 2s. I've been very happy with Agility Saruman. And we're going to go through the troop comp that I'm currently running, but we'll probably go into that first. So we'll go straight into the reports, I think. Which are here, I believe. So, hopefully, there's quite a few reports to go through, so it might rush through a few of them, but you'll sort of get to appreciate where it was. So, I've been using this now for a couple of days. I did switch Woses onto Dane once I'd got enough of them. I quite like Guardians on Dane, really like Woses on Dane, and I'll kind of go into the reasons for that. So, I'm using a tier 2 dwarf as a tank on Sauron, and what I've found with this tier 2 tank is that the way my formation works, and it may be because I haven't got a decent command helm, to be honest, if I'm going to lose the fight, my damage dealers die in probably round 6 or 7. Sometimes at worst, one might die in round 5 if I get really tanked with some RNG, but really round 6 and 7. And what I was finding by reading the reports, that with this sort of double tank formation that I run, because my Gandalf the White's also pretty tanky, whatever I had as my tank then becomes pretty much fodder, because it's just getting hit with nothing coming back at the enemy because I've got no damage coming. So what I found by using tier 2 dwarves and Sauron with some seriously high command and unit defense is that actually he's dying if I'm going to lose around the same time, or he's not dying if I'm winning. So I'm not wasting resource. So it's been quite interesting. And, you know, Rob, you'll see a few reports with Rob the Great during this. And it's a pretty big formation. So I was quite happy with this kind of report, and just to sort of explain through the lack of tank, really. And it works really well with this. Okay, so admittedly here I'd accidentally put the tier 2s on Gandalf the White, but my Gandalf the White is still tanky enough. The reality is he won't die either. So Dane with Woes is really good. I know I've talked about Woes before. This ambush tactics of the first 4 rounds give you a 100% chance to gain initiative. Basically means it counteracts one of my biggest problems, I would say, which is round 4. Now, admittedly, I can still get Sauron Give Me Madness going into round 4, but what it does is on round 4, I tend to trade even now with Bjorn formations, or pretty close, because Dane isn't getting hit with any kind of madness, and with him acting before a Bjorn generally, because he's got initiative from the Wozes, he can't then pick up madness in that round. And I found that from having a faster Saruman and a faster Dane's really helped kind of avoid that madness proc and get a really solid round 4 in. So I was pretty happy with that. I haven't hit Leopard since this, and I kind of wish I had. Again, you know, tank-wise, yes, he's died, but the reality is I've won the fight, so I'm okay with that if my tier 2 dies off. This is pretty much, I think, where I started to realise I need to switch those 2 units over. Dane coming out with some great numbers, and Leopard's got a really good formation. You know, I'm hitting something here with a genuine tank, and again, because Roses are ranged, and also the Bow Knights are ranged, even though they're AT2, they're still ranged, obviously. It acts like a 10-round tank having these 2 here for normal attacks anyway. So I'm not entirely convinced these days you actually need a troll. And if we have a look in this, it'll hopefully explain this round 4 damage I'm talking about. So the tendency is you tend to roughly be there or thereabouts. So round 2 you tend to win. Round 3 you pretty much generally win. There'll be some RNG in there that stop that, I would think. And then round 4 you're pretty much trading even with a Bjorn because of the way the damage now works. So I just think that's quite an interesting way around it, really. And I know people say they like the burst damage of Bjorn, but actually you're kind of beating that burst damage. What I have got, thanks to Law, and I know I promised to do this, it might have to be this weekend now, we've got a great document of some detail on Dane or Bjorn from last season, so I'm going to go into that as well at some stage. And this is where I switch to what I'm currently running. And again, you know, I was playing around with which one of these works. I found that the tier 2 Bow Knights on Saruman work the best. But again, you know, really, really solid formation that we've taken down with relative ease here, to be honest. And it's to do with this whole Saruman acting first and Dane then hitting hard. The only downside of initiative Dane is that sometimes White Council isn't cleared in time for the round 3 hit of Durin's Blood. By putting him slower, obviously, you do get that increased damage. So it's kind of pay your money and take your choice. You might get slightly less damage by giving him Wozes into round 3, but you are protecting him pretty well in round 4, and that's kind of where we're at with it. So, you know, this was kind of great balance to a formation I found, and it's really cheap. I mean, Wozes are the same price as a Guardian, so really, really cheap formation. Rob seems to appear in here a lot more than what I thought. Again, you know, same gear as he had last time. He has got a slightly more expensive formation this time. If we just look into that round 3, round 4, round 3, round 4 again. So I've won round 3, and I've lost round 4, but not by a great deal, even though he's got a very, 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 very nice Bjorn. So, you know, it's really interesting how that's working. And I think at this stage was where I probably thought about swapping back to Dane with sort of Wozes. But, you know, again, another solid result. Very, very cheap formation. No tank, just a tier 2 tank and a tier 3 Guardian. The HP pool's still really good. And when we get to the back end of the report, you'll see that, you know, I have died with this formation. I don't win every fight. Like, I always get done over by Loop. Always lose to him. And this is probably the closest I've got. I'm not saying I'm unhappy with that, because as a resource, I've got a slightly cheaper formation. But, you know, I mean, he's got a disgusting formation that everyone seems to struggle with. Beautiful Saruman. So he's got a really, really nice formation. Again, you know, I'm not unhappy. This was another great result for me. And again, this is where I now switched over and thought, right, okay, let's go for initiative. So we'll go for the Wozes version of Dane. Worked really well for me, and I'm still sticking with it now. This formation is stupid good. Mithron's got some really, really nice accounts. He's got a couple of good side ones, I think, as well. Pretty sure he owns the kitten account, but like that result there is stupid good for me. I mean, look at the gear. It's just obscene that I've managed to, that's 4 full refined uniques and a lot more respect levels than me and a lot more expensive formation. And this kind of tank work has done wonders, really. And honestly, I think Guardians are great. The tier 2s are good if you've got enough command. We then fought Malice, and again, we got back to the Bow Knights. This is what I really like to run. They're just a little bit slower to cook, which is a bit annoying. And what I found is that this formation pretty much allows your account to never really run out of troops. So you can just spam this, and it does hit hard. Like I say, you don't win every fight, but it does hit really, really hard. Again, same theory. We're hitting formations here with a genuine tank, and we're doing really well. So I just think by running the double ranged, it really works out quite nicely. There is a lot of reports this time, but mainly because I've left it probably too long without doing a video. But there's a lot of data here about how this works, and to be honest, I don't know if I'm going to change it all season. If we got slightly richer, I may upgrade this to a Guardian, for example. But actually, I really like the tier 2 Bow Knights on Saruman. Mainly because the HP pool is not too dissimilar to the actual HP pool of tier 3 for the difference. So we're about halfway through the reports now. And again, Whip's got not a slouchy formation. It's another Bjorn formation. I know people say Bjorn Saruman's always a good one. It's still being countered quite nicely here and still doing well from a resource point of view. Again, see, the tier 2 survives mainly because of the amount of command that I've got, I would say, more than anything else. This is a great formation. I think Maud played this account last season. I really like this Legolas. We had a few fights the other day, and to be honest, I came out just about on top, but not by a great deal. Again, it's so cheap to run, and the results are so good. Coal Tar Smoking 4, I mean, as far as names go, interesting one. But, again, people using genuine tank units. I find generally if Bjorn has a counter on my entire formation, he goes absolutely berserk, which is another reason why I like running the tier 2s on Saruman. If I could afford, potentially, I might switch these to Knights, and I'm not joking about that. I may go to Knights just to give me another counter buff. Maybe Catters if we could get a little bit, a bit more price. This is a stupidly big account, okay? So I'm not full here. And I've still put out quite decent damage. This account here, I think this is another one of the Mithron accounts, so it's a Z15 Dane. It's an R14 Saruman. So everything in this formation is bigger than what I have, okay? Z15 Gandalf the White with full refine unique. And I'm okay with that. As far as the result goes, I think if he hadn't got the Ram counter here, I would have actually probably done even better. So it's cheap, it's cheerful, it's just working quite nicely. I'm going to come back to the Kyle report because it's a troop damage one, and I want to go into that next, and you will see that it's actually worked really well, but we'll come back to that. So NAJ wasn't full here, so it's probably not a sort of, a decent barometer of how this fight would normally go, but it was more the fact that the Swans on Galadriel do die if you hit them hard enough, which I know on the fella video kind of said they never die. They do. That's what I'm just saying there. Another fight with Rob the Great. Again, this formation's good. Beat me here, but I'm not displeased because that's kind of like the worst case scenario against this formation. And from a resource point of view, I've took out all of his trolls, half his half trolls. So, I'm pretty happy with that. And a lot of the time it is at the moment just trading resources. I mean, it's a case of at the moment with kind of being on the defence at two different areas. It's more of how many times you can hit in a day. And what I've currently created here allows that to sort of go quite a lot. So Hoon's another good fighter. And again, I think now using woes is because on the back of what's been happening here. So what I will say about the Woes' effect is I don't think they're great if you're using a 3-in-1. So if you're using 3 support and then say a Dane, if you're using Woes', I don't think they work very well because him going first, you haven't cleared White Council early enough. It doesn't work very well, so I wouldn't recommend that personally. Again, Rob the Great, seems like we fight a lot. Pretty happy with that as well. I would have won the draw here, so all those would have died. What we got here? Armand the Great. This is the Legolas formation again. And again, you know, it's no slouch. It's nice to see a Legolas. Z10 no less, but works really well. Morgan was running a little bit more of a troop formation, and we had some weird RNG. This was probably the best one for me. I think he beat me to a similar figure, but he is using 2 tier 4s here. I'd like to talk about this kind of formation afterwards. I'm going to use Kyle as an example because it probably shows it a little bit better, I think. We had a bit of a debate last night about whether I've just died here. Who's this? Tartar. We'll just back off away from that. We'll come back to that afterwards. But yeah, so where were we? We were at Hoon, I think, or Morgan. There's quite a lot of reports here. So I think we're at Morgan, and the reason why I like Kyle's one more is I think he's kind of closer to a troop formation that works really well. Whereas Morgan, I think, swapped Dane in yesterday, and it did okay, but I don't think it was quite what he wanted it to do. Again, Legolas. Again, Hoon. And this is where he did switch to Woes, so, you know, it works. That's all I'm going to say. Like I said, I don't think it works in a 3-in-1, but it does work. Lild 33, again, you know, really good result for me. Really cheap formation, really easy to run. Barracks rarely drops below sort of 70-80k by the time night time comes around. And it's really allowing me to push those merit boards. This was Lesperance yesterday. Again, expensive formation, I would say, for what it is. Again, I was quite happy with this. I'd have got panned in the draw, and this is what I'm saying about how my 2 DDs died before my my tanks generally. So from probably, let's look at what round it was. So round 6, they're both still alive, I think. Yeah. 7, Saruman's dead. 8, Dane's still alive. Right, so from round 9 and round 10, both my damage dealers are dead, so there's nothing really coming back, as you can see from these reports, damage-wise. Although we got a little bit out in round 10. Must have hurt himself, I'm guessing, there. And my point is that, really, my tanks just become fodder at that point, so having cheaper tanks just makes it so it works okay. I got splattered here, but again, I'm okay with it, because, you know, there's a lot of resource in that formation, a lot of timed conscript. Really nice formation, actually, Big Daddy's is. I think we've only fought once. I was a little bit aggrieved with this report. I feel like I could probably do a little bit better. But again, nicest result. Lild again yesterday. You know, nice formation, but again, good win. This was interesting because this goes to show you sometimes that the draw, we didn't even make round 2. We just got absolutely obliterated. So it looks fairly close. I've still got White Council here. Still got Sauron. He's not got White Council, but he has got Saruman to clear White Council very fast. Absolutely annihilated me in the draw. But it was interesting to play that one out just to see how it went. And then the last one again was Rob the Great. And there you can see, you know, it's come out really well. So that's the kind of reports. Now I'm just going to go back to the Kyle one, if I can find it, and we're just going to go slightly through troops. So my conclusion at the moment is I'm not entirely convinced you need a tank. So now we're going to go into troops, and I just want to show this really fast because I think it's something that we can probably look at. Now, I think he's getting this wrong by using the tier 4 on Thorin. And the reason why I think that is because it doesn't allow him to trigger the bold. We were looking through some reports last night, and the normal attacks that would trigger the bold don't hit Thorin. if he's being protected by someone else, or if he's protecting it also doesn't seem to work. So I think he probably needs to change it. And then we had a big debate about Dunedain and whether it was worthwhile running Dunedain to see if you could get the bold to trigger him and kill something like a bow knight on a guild formation or something like that. So I think he's going to do some testing around that. But this is a great result. You know, don't get me wrong, he's got really nice gear. But it's nice to see a troop formation work. It's just a shame at the moment it's a little bit expensive for me. I think he's going to try and drop to one group of Rangers of the North, because even though in principle it seems really, really good, they actually can protect the same formation, making it completely pointless. I did basically, yeah, we got absolutely smacked there. I mean, Tartar, again, good formation, but I would assume some madness has been involved in this. Just have a scan down. Madness and stun. Dane probably be stunned round 3, I'm guessing. If you can see the report properly. No, he got stunned. He didn't get stunned round 3. Did he get stunned round 4? No, interesting. I'll have to go more into that report, but it looks like 3 and 4 went well. 6, it looks like, with Madness to Self. And then we died, so, it is what it is. Fair enough. What was I doing with that? Oh, yeah, another report. One last one, sorry. So, this was Kyle's formation versus Reaper. Now, Reaper's got a really nice account. It's nice that you can favourite other people's reports now to show people. And this formation from Kyle worked really well. When I investigated these reports, though, I do think the Dunedain need to be switched onto Thorin. And I think he's going to try that. Because they do seem to, even though they took away their melee status, they do seem to work like a melee. So it's hard for Thorin to get hit, for example, when he's got the bold. It's hard for him to get hit when he's using range from a normal attack. So it kind of, half the bold doesn't work, which is why you're seeing poor results really there. So probably see if he can get that changed. The other reports in here that I'll probably keep somewhere for a rainy day are Eowyn, which were really nice. And this was another theory crafted formation. So we need to do a little bit more work around Eowyn. If I get time at the back end of the season, I will work on looking at this, because some of the results, I mean, Mithron's a massive account. Same as Ragnar, you know, this is a really big account. What I did find, though, and what we did find, was Eowyn was dying before her troops, which I'm sure they've done something with Commander HP lately, which is a little bit annoying. But yeah, nice to see Eowyn doing okay. But I'm going to work around on that, because she's quite useful in a mounted formation, to be honest. And that's pretty much everything we've got time for today, anyway, and kind of everything I wanted to cover. I'll do more work on Eowyn. I will do more work on probably on that troop formation if Kyle lets me help him. And I will continue to play without a tank and kind of test the results. I'm torn between moving Dane's gear to a defensive set, and I'm thinking of using half Divide, half Dwarf to really kind of get rid of some focus damage or some elemental damage and physical damage. The only issue there is if I'm using Woes, I don't get any benefit, so I need to kind of figure out where I'm sat with that, really. But that's it, and I guess in the end I'll follow my nose. So if in doubt, same as you, always follow your nose.